Hi there, it's Ryan with DoHardMoney.com, and today we're going to be talking about how much does it cost to replace a septic system. We're going to talk a little bit about septic systems, but first off, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. It's a really big help to me. And if there's other topics you would like me to be covering, please put it in the comments section and say, hey Ryan, talk about this topic, and I'll bring it up in one of these daily videos that we do. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel because we do a video every single day. And today we're talking all about septic tanks. So what the heck is a septic tank? Well, basically, if there is not plumbing that is going to the house where you're going to have like culinary or sewage that's going to be coming there, then you're going to do what's called a septic tank. Now, one word of warning: most places that have septic tanks are more rural properties or recreational properties. So for example, I have a property that's in the woods. It has a septic tank because there is not sewer going directly to the house. This can be a little bit concerning as a real estate investor because most places are going to have septic, are going to be harder properties to sell as a general rule. And there's exceptions to every single rule. But you want to be careful about that, because if there isn't sewage going to the property, that can be a little bit concerning of your ability to resell the property. Are there enough buyers in the area? Is there enough properties in the area? Is there enough movement in the area? So that can be concerning. Now, if there are those things, if the population's big enough, if there's properties that are selling, if time of market is good, then you could overlook that. But it's something you need to be really careful with. But the idea with the septic is basically when you flush the toilet, it goes into what's called a septic tank. It's a big tank. It's concrete. They actually have to take a big backhoe and they have to go and they have to dig it up. And then from that tank, everything ends up, it gets to have some biology down there where basically things are eating other things and enzymes and all this type of stuff. It becomes this natural bacteria fest, which is basically eating away. And then when it gets to a certain level, there's a pipe that comes out, which makes the fluids come out, and the fluids go out into what's called a leach field. And a leach field is basically piping that goes back and forth, which basically lets the liquids and some of the gases as they come up actually go out through and actually leach through these leach fields, which are basically just pipes that are buried down. Now you've got to be careful, because if you have a property with a septic tank and you have these leach fields, which you have to have if you have a septic tank, you got to be concerned because you can't put a garden on top of that. You can't put a building on top of it. You can't go dig that up, because what you're going to run into is you're putting it on top of leach fields, which is one of the things you need to understand if you do have a septic system is where are the leach fields? One, where is the septic tank? Because that does have to get cleaned out from time to time, typically 5 to 10 years. Somebody comes up, they pull up the manhole, they put a sucker down there, it sucks all the stuff up, and then it goes, and then he leaves, and it comes back in 5 to 10 years, depending upon the usage and how many people are in the house and those types of things. But everything else goes out through these leach fields where the water and is leaching through, which is the intended purpose on that. So that's basically how a septic system actually works. Now, what do septic systems cost? It really comes down to the number of bedrooms that you have in that house, because you're going to need a bigger system or a smaller system, depending. Which the system cost is going to say how big does the tank need to be, and then secondly, how long do the leach fields need to be, and how much area do the leach fields need to take in. So that is really a difficult question to answer, because you're going to have to be able to bring and get a backhoe, and that backhoe is going to have to take out the tank, and then that tank you may have to rip out the leach field. So most of the time you don't have to replace the septic tank itself. Most of the time those tanks are in good shape. They're going to last a long time, and so really what you need to do is just clean the septic, just suck out the crap and let it go along its way. And so that's one thing that is typically the case. Now, if it's really a problem and you have to replace that tank, it's going to be pretty expensive, because you have to buy a new tank potentially, and or you're going to have to take out the old one, put in a new one, and dispose the old one. And then depending upon what's happening with the leach fields, you may have to replace those leach fields. In my experience, I haven't seen leach fields having to get replaced unless they were damaged by somebody trying to do construction on top of them. So I don't think replacing the leach fields is something you need to really be worried about. Likewise, with septic tanks, as long as it was properly installed, you usually don't have to worry about replacing them. It's usually just getting somebody to come out and suck that out and take a quick look at it. But most of those are going to last a very long time if they are properly installed. So I would give it, most of the time, if you're having septic problems, it's not because you need to do work on the leach fields nor put a new tank on. Most of the time that situation is going to be, it just needs to be sucked out, and you're going to be able to go along your way. Now, if you need to do the replacement, you're going to be talking about a pretty expensive bill here. I think in the low end, you're probably talking somewhere around $5,000, and on the high end, as high as $25,000, depending upon what needs to be done. If you got to take out the tank, put a new tank in, hook that to the leach fields, that's going to be one price. If you're going to have to do the leach fields, that's going to be an additional price. And if you're going to have to haul out the other unit, that's going to be another price. As far as just getting somebody to come sucking the poop out, it's only a few $100, $200 to $500. And again, it depends on how big the house is, how big the tank is, where you live. So this is something you need to get some bids on. But I would say most of the time you don't need to worry about septics. If it's on a septic, the first thing to worry about is there enough commerce in the area? Is there enough buyers and sellers? What is the time of market? Am I in a rural area? Just to say, should I even be investing in this property? Because if there's not a lot of transactions and the time on market's really long, you've got to be concerned about that. Secondly, if there is a problem, you're typically just talking about having somebody come and suck the poo out. And if it's greater than that, you're going to want to get a septic specialist out there to take a look at the situation and make a determination what needs to be done. And then they're going to give you a bid on the septic system itself. If the tank needs to be replaced, if the lines need to be replaced, I think you're anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000, depending upon the size of the house, what needs to be done, and everything else. So I would recommend that you look into this. Now, in most cases, homeowners insurance is not going to cover a septic system. A septic is going to be just like a roof that needs to be maintained. They're not going to cover it as part of your homeowners insurance. So it's something you've got to plan in the cost as you are dealing with this. And I've got a couple other videos that could be helpful for you. Over here, we're going to talk about the cost to getting rid of mold. So check that one out. And we'll also be going over fire damage house if it's a good investment. So you can take a look at the video on the screen as well for some other videos. Again, love a thumbs up on this video. If you want to hear about something else, please put it in the comments below, and we'll make it one of our daily videos. Thank you for watching. If you want other helpful tips and tricks, check us out over at dohardmoney.com and make it a very profitable day. Bye for now.